Have you ever stopped to wonder what a thought actually is? I don't mean in a philosophical sense, but physically. Like, what is happening inside your skull right now? It really feels like magic, doesn't it? But as we're about to see, it's a very real, very physical process that's somehow both incredibly inefficient and absolutely brilliant all at the same time.
So, let's start here. Right at this very moment, your senses, your eyes, your ears, your skin, are taking in a staggering amount of information. We're talking a billion bits of data every single second. It's kind of like you're streaming a full-on HD movie directly into your nervous system.
And then there's this. This is the speed of your conscious mind. 10. Just 10 bits per second. To put that in perspective, that's like reading just 2 letters of text a second. So, we go from a billion bits all the way down to 10.
That gigantic gap, that's the central mystery we're going to tackle today. It's a filtering process on a scale that is almost impossible to wrap your head around. And to solve this mystery, we have to start by completely redefining what a thought even is.
You know, for centuries, people thought of thought as something magical, some kind of ethereal substance totally separate from our physical bodies. But today, neuroscience sees it for what it really is, a physical electrochemical process happening inside the hardware of your brain.
Okay, so that sounds pretty academic, right? But let's break it down. A thought isn't just some abstract idea floating around in space. A better way to think about it is like a physical map inside your brain. It's a very specific pattern of neurons firing that corresponds to something you've seen, something you felt, or something you're planning to do. And seeing thought as a physical thing is actually a huge shift from how we used to think about it. I mean, we've come a long way from Plato's idea of abstract forms to the language of thought hypothesis, which basically said we think in silent sentences, and now to modern connectionism, which sees a thought as just a specific pattern of activation across a huge network of neurons.
All right, so let's get back to our big mystery. How in the world does the brain handle that flood of a billion bits of information every second? Well, the simple answer is, it doesn't. It is an incredibly aggressive filter.
I mean, just look at the scale of this filtering. It's almost funny. If our total sensory input is this massive wall of data, our conscious thought is this tiny, almost invisible speck. Your brain literally throws away over 99.999999% of all the information coming in.
Now, you might think this massive filtering process is a weakness, a bug in the system, but it's actually our greatest cognitive strength. It is the feature that allows you to focus on my voice right now and ignore the hum of your computer, the feeling of the chair you're in, and all the other million distractions around you. It allows you to think instead of just being overwhelmed.
So let's zoom way in. Let's look at how that tiny, tiny fraction of information that actually makes it through travels on the brain's biological hardware. It's like this incredible electrochemical relay race happening at lightning speed.
So in just milliseconds, an electrical signal zips down one neuron, it triggers this little puff of chemicals across a tiny gap that's called a synapse, and that starts a whole new electrical signal in the next cell. This amazingly precise chain reaction happens across billions of cells all at once just to form a single idea.
And here's where it gets really mind-bending. This process isn't just temporary. It leaves a physical trace. It's called an engram. A memory isn't like a file you save on a computer. It is a physical rewiring of your brain structure. It's a unique group of neurons that are now physically linked together because of an experience you had.
And there's this brilliant, simple rule that governs this whole process. Neurons that fire together, wired together. Every single time you have a thought, or learn a new skill, or bring up a memory, you are physically strengthening certain connections in your brain. You are literally carving mental highways into its physical structure.
So, okay, we've got all these separate, microscopic neurons firing all over the place. How does all of that create the single, unified experience of consciousness? You know, how do we get from all those tiny parts to the whole you?
Well, the global workspace theory gives us a really powerful way to think about it, the theater of the mind. So imagine most of the brain's work, the audience, is happening unconsciously, in the dark. You've got all these specialized systems working at the same time. But consciousness, that's like a single spotlight. It picks one piece of information, shines a bright light on it, and broadcasts it to the entire stage for all the other systems to see and use. And the coolest part is, this isn't just a nice metaphor. Neuroscientists have actually identified this workspace as a real, physical network of long-range neurons, mostly in the front and top parts of your brain. And when a signal in that network gets strong enough,
It triggers this sudden, nonlinear ignition, a burst of coordinated activity that makes that one piece of information available to your entire brain. That is the moment you become consciously aware of something.
All right, we're on to the final piece of our journey, and honestly, it's a surprising one. Thinking isn't just an electrochemical process, it's also a thermodynamic one. It has a real physical cost.
Okay, simply put, thinking ain't free. The laws of physics tell us that every time your brain erases information, like when you forget something, or even just when a neuron resets itself, it has to release a tiny but real amount of energy, as heat. Your brain literally runs like a thermodynamic engine.
And this is why your brain, which is only about 2% of your body's weight, is an absolute energy hog, consuming a massive 20% of your resting energy. And look at where that energy goes. Half of it is just for receiving signals. The vast majority of the power is just spent maintaining the system, sort of the base load for potential thought.
So what about when you're really concentrating, really thinking hard? What's the extra energy cost for that? Well, it's this, just 5%. All that mental strain you feel is just a tiny 5% surcharge on top of the massive background activity. And that is why a day of tough decisions or intense focus can leave you feeling physically exhausted. So let's just pull this all together. A thought is a physical process. Our brain takes a flood of data and filters it down to a tiny conscious stream. Our memories are actual physical changes in our brain, and all of this has a real, measurable energy cost. It's not magic, it's a machine.
And understanding this physical reality of thought, well, it opens up some profound questions. If our conscious mind is really this slow, this physically limited, what does that mean for our future? How might technology one day interact with, or maybe even enhance, the very machine that makes us who we are? Now that is something to think about.